Millionaire Success Habits by Dean Graziosi. Introduction. In 1960s Los Angeles, in a classroom filled with the restless energy of teenagers, an 11th grade teacher stopped his lesson. He pointed to a young boy at the back of the room, a kid named JP, who was goofing off with his friend. The teacher's voice cut through the air. "See these two?" he announced to the entire class. "Don't hang around them. They're not going to amount to anything. They'll absolutely never make it in any business." Now, imagine you're that kid. For a moment, feel the sting of those words. The weight of a grown-up, an authority figure, telling everyone, that you are a failure before you've even begun. What do you do with a moment like that? A moment that could so easily become the defining story of your life. Most people would let a story like that become an anchor, a heavy weight that holds them down forever. They'd say to themselves, "Well, he's right. I'll never amount to anything." But this young man, JP, he did something different. He heard those words, and a fire lit inside of him. He thought, "The hell with that guy. I'll prove him wrong." That young boy, JP, was John Paul DeJoria. He would go on to be homeless not once, but twice, living out of an old car with his young son. He sold encyclopedias door to door, facing rejection after rejection. But he held on to that fire. He remembered a lesson from an old boss at a dry cleaner's: do whatever you do to the best of your ability, as if the boss is watching you every minute of every day. He proved that teacher wrong by building not one, but $2 billion companies, the Paul Mitchell line of hair products and Patron tequila. And his friend in that classroom? Her name was Michelle Gilliam. You might know her better as Michelle Phillips, a founding member of the legendary band, the Mamas and the Papas. This story isn't just about proving a teacher wrong. It's about a fundamental truth that sits at the heart of one of the most practical and powerful books on success I've ever come across, Millionaire Success Habits by Dean Graziosi. This book, which has reached hundreds of thousands of people in nearly 100 countries, isn't about luck. It's not about being born with special gifts. It's about the simple, learnable habits that separate those who achieve their dreams from those who only dream about them. Today, we're going to journey through the core lessons of this incredible book. And I promise you, by the time we're done, you will not only understand the hidden forces that have been holding you back, but you will also hold the keys to unlock a level of success, happiness, and wealth that you may have once thought was impossible. We're going to uncover the villain that lives inside all of us, and we're going to awaken the hero you were always meant to be. Book summary. So let's begin with a question that seems simple, but is one of the hardest for most people to answer. It's a question Dean Graziosi places at the very foundation of his work. What do you want? It's a funny thing. If you ask most people what they don't want, the list flows out effortlessly. I don't want to be stuck in this job forever. I don't want to worry about money. I don't want to keep driving this old car. We are experts in what we want to avoid. But then, if you stop them and ask, "Okay, but what do you want?" you're often met with a long pause. Well, that's a good question. Graziosi uses a wonderful analogy for this. He says it's like having a Ferrari brain in a world with no GPS. We have all this power, all this speed, all this potential to go anywhere we want. But if we don't have a clear destination typed into that GPS, we'll just get nowhere fast. We might even drive that beautiful Ferrari right off a cliff. This is the first major hurdle for so many of us. We are busier now than at any point in human history. Our phones are buzzing, emails are flooding in, social media is screaming for our attention. We feel like we're sprinting every single day. But Graziosi asks a crucial question: are you on a ladder, or are you on a treadmill? Because running fast is only good if you're on the right path. Otherwise, all you do is get lost quicker. The reason so many of us feel like we're on a treadmill is because our destination is fuzzy. We're focused on running away from the rocks in the river, instead of steering toward the clear, open water ahead. So, the first millionaire success habit is to get crystal clear on where you want to go. And he offers a simple, powerful way to do this. He calls it looking back from the future. Instead of trying to plan your life forward from today, with all the noise and distractions, he asks you to do a little time travel in your mind. Imagine it's 1 year from today. And as you look back over the past 365 days, you realize it was the absolute best year of your life. What had to happen for that to be true? How much money are you making? Where are you working? What does your relationship with your family look like? How do you feel when you wake up in the morning? Don't let your current reality hold you back like an anchor. Just let yourself dream. When you do this, you're not just setting goals, you're creating a vision. You're giving your internal GPS a destination. And once you have that, something magical happens. You start to develop a filter. You start to know what to say no to, because you can see it's not taking you where you want to go. But a destination, a vision, isn't enough. You need fuel. You need a reason to keep going when the journey gets tough, when the obstacles seem too big, when you feel like giving up. And this brings us to what might be the most powerful exercise in the entire book. It's the engine that drives everything else. It's called the 7 Levels Deep. Graziosi shares a deeply personal story about how he learned this. He hired a consultant named Joe Stump to help him get his students more engaged. Dean thought he knew his own motivations. He told Joe, "I want to help more people change their lives. I want to leave a legacy my family can be proud of." And those were good answers. They were noble answers. But they were coming from his head. Joe started asking him a simple question, over and over again. "Why do you want to leave a legacy?" Joe asked. "Because I want to set a new standard in my industry," Dean replied. "Why is that important to you?" And so it went, level after level. And around the 5th why, something shifted. The answers stopped coming from Dean's head, and they started coming from his heart. He said, with a wave of emotion, "I never want to go backward." Suddenly, all these memories flooded back. Growing up with no money. Wearing hand-me-downs. Living in a small bathroom with his dad during a brutal New York winter because it was the only room with heat. The insecurity, the feeling of being less than. He never, ever wanted to feel that way again. Joe asked again, "Why is it important that you don't go backward?" And Dean, with tears in his eyes, said, "Because I want to give my kids the choices and options I never had." He wanted them to have the freedom to be whoever they wanted to be, without the chokehold of financial worry. He thought for sure that was it. That was his ultimate why. But there was one more level to go. Joe looked him in the eye and asked the 7th and final question, "Dean, why is it important that your children have choices?" And the answer just flew out of his mouth, a truth he had never consciously realized before. "Because I want to be in control." Not a control freak. Just in control. Growing up, he had no control. His parents married 9 times between them. He moved 20 times by the time he was 19. New step-parents, new step-siblings, new schools, new friends. And then it would all be uprooted again. He always felt like a passenger in a car with no steering wheel. And in that moment, he realized that his entire life's drive, every business he started, every risk he took, was fueled by a deep, powerful need to be the one making the decisions in his own life. This is your why. It's not the surface-level answer. It's the deep, emotional reason that will keep you going when financial freedom just isn't enough to get you out of bed on a tough day. When you know your 7 levels deep why, you become unstoppable. So now you have a destination, and you have your fuel. What could possibly stand in your way? Well, this is where Graziosi introduces a fascinating concept. He says we all have an internal battle going on inside of us. He tells an old story about a grandfather explaining to his grandson that we all have two wolves living inside us. One wolf is negative. It's filled with jealousy, self-pity, resentment, and a belief that the world is a cold, hard place. It's the voice that whispers, "You can't do this. Who do you think you are? You're going to fail." The other wolf is powerful. It's filled with empathy, love, compassion, positivity, and the belief that it can accomplish anything it sets its mind to. The grandson asks, "Grandma, which wolf wins?" And she replies, "The one you feed, grandson. The one you feed." Graziosi calls that negative wolf the villain within. It's a parasite. It's that voice of self-doubt that lives in the back of your mind, robbing you of your confidence, your joy, and your passion for life. And the worst part is, we often don't even realize how it got there. He explains that this villain is fed by so many things in our modern world. It's fed by the constant stream of negative news, which is designed to grab our attention by telling us about wars, disasters, and everything that's wrong with the world. He points out that research shows the average person has around 70,000 thoughts per day, and a staggering 80% of them are negative. The news is a major contributor to this. The villain is also fed by the well-intentioned but terrible advice we've been given our whole lives to work on our weaknesses. Graziosi argues this is one of the biggest lies we've ever been told. When you focus on what you're bad at, you constantly feel inferior. It robs you of your confidence. Instead, he says, you should forget your weaknesses and get amazing at what you're already good at. He tells a story about writing his first book. He knew he wasn't a great writer, grammatically speaking. He barely got out of high school. So he hired a top editor, who called him 2 days later and said, "Dean, this isn't a book. It's a 200-page conversation. You need a complete rewrite." He was devastated. That old villain started whispering in his ear, "See? You can't write a book. Who are you to think you could do this?" But after a day of feeling terrible, his why kicked in. He thought, wait a minute. I may not be a perfect writer, but I have a powerful message that can change people's lives. He fired that editor, found a new one, and told them, "Just fix the spelling and grammar, but don't change my voice. This is who I am." That book went on to become a New York Times bestseller. The lesson? Focusing on your strengths will help you overcome anything you consider a weakness. And finally, the villain is fed by the bad advice from people who love us. Our parents, our friends, our spouses. They often tell us to play it safe, to be responsible, not because they want us to fail, but because they're afraid for us. They wrap their own fears in a bow of love and hand them to us. Graziosi makes a crucial point. You can't take advice on how to build a successful marriage from someone who's been divorced 5 times. You can't take financial advice from your broke friend. You have to be incredibly careful about whose voices you let into your head. So, how do we starve this villain? How do we start feeding the good wolf? This is where Graziosi's work gets really practical. He says the villain's most powerful weapon is the story it tells you about yourself. I'm not smart enough. I'm too old. I don't have enough money. I'm not the kind of person who can be successful. These aren't facts. They are just stories. And the most liberating success habit you can learn is this: change your story, change your life. He shares the incredible story of one of his students, a woman named Jenna. When he met her, Jenna was in her early 60s. She had been a wonderful stay-at-home mom, but now her kids were grown and gone. Her husband told her they needed to make some extra money for college tuition and weddings. The story Jenna was telling herself went something like this: I'm old now. My job as a mom is over. I don't have any special skills. My best days are behind me. Maybe I can be a greeter at the local department store. This story was making her feel depressed, worthless, and invisible. It was a story told by her inner villain. But through Graziosi's work, she realized this story was a lie. And she decided to write a new one. Her new story sounded like this: I am a strong, vibrant 63-year-old who is just discovering the next phase of my life. Age doesn't limit me, it empowers me with wisdom. Nothing can stop me from the joy, wealth, and abundance that I desire. Did anything in the outside world change for Jenna? No. She didn't win the lottery. But by changing her internal story, she changed her entire reality. In the next 5 years, she started her own successful business, traveled the world, paid for all her kids' college educations, bought her dream home, and inspired everyone around her. She didn't change her circumstances, she changed her story about her circumstances. This is a habit you can start today. Identify the limiting story your villain is telling you. Ask yourself, what does this story cost me? Has it cost me confidence, relationships, opportunities? Then, find proof that it's not true. If your story is you can't be successful without a college degree, find examples of massively successful people who never went to college, like Richard Branson or Tony Robbins. Prove to yourself that your story is garbage. And then, write a new, empowering story and repeat it to yourself every single day until it becomes your new truth. When you stop feeding the villain and start telling yourself a new story, you begin to awaken the inner hero. This is the best version of you. The you that God or the universe designed you to be. And the fuel for this hero is confidence. Graziosi says that confidence isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. And he shares a simple, brilliant framework for building it from one of his mentors, Dan Sullivan. It's called the 4 C's of confidence. It starts with courage. Courage is taking that first step when you don't know what's on the other side. It's jumping off a ledge, even when you're scared. The second C is commitment. Once you take that courageous step, you have to commit to seeing it through. You can't just dabble. A shaky commitment leads to shaky confidence. The third C is capabilities. This is about getting the knowledge you need. You can't just rely on trial and error. You need a roadmap. You need to learn from people who have already done what you want to do. Reading a book like this is building your capabilities. And when you combine courage, commitment, and capabilities, the fourth C emerges naturally: confidence. Confidence isn't the starting point, it's the result. It's the feeling you get after you've taken courageous action, committed to the process, and built the skills you need. Once your inner hero is awake and fueled by confidence, it's time to focus that energy. This is where success in the real world begins. It's about finding what Graziosi calls your one shining goal. He quotes Warren Buffett, who said, "The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything." This is about ruthless prioritization. To help you find what to say yes to, Graziosi has you create a magic list. You write down: 1. What you love to do. 2. What you're really good at. 3. What activity, if you focused on it, would bring you the biggest financial reward. Anything that doesn't align with these 3 things probably needs to go on your not-to-do list, which Graziosi says is even more important than your to-do list. This leads to another brilliant concept from Dan Sullivan, the unique ability circle. Imagine a target with 4 rings. In the very center, the bullseye, is your unique ability. This is the thing you are naturally amazing at, the thing that puts you in a state of flow, and the thing that makes you the most money. The next ring out is things you're excellent at, then good at, and the outermost ring is things you stink at. The secret to massive success is to spend as much of your time as possible in that center circle, your unique ability, and to eliminate, delegate, or outsource everything else. Graziosi tells a story of when he was young and paid someone $50 to mow the massive lawn at an apartment building he owned. His dad, who grew up in the Depression, was furious. "You're going to go broke paying someone to do something you could do yourself," he said. But Dean realized that in the half day it took to mow that lawn, he could be fixing and selling a car or putting together another real estate deal that would make him thousands of dollars. His time was worth more when he was in his unique ability. Success, however, isn't a solo sport. You have to be able to connect with people, to inspire them, to lead them. And this brings us to the arts of attraction and persuasion. Graziosi boils these down to one of the most profound principles in the book: people will learn from you, listen to you, love you, buy from you, and hire you when they feel understood, not when they understand you. Think about that. Most of us go through life trying to get other people to understand us. We want them to understand our point of view, our product, our needs. But the most successful people in the world are masters of understanding others. They listen more than they talk. They ask questions. They get inside the other person's world. He uses the example of two car salesmen. The first one comes up and says, "Hi, I'm the best salesman here. This car has the best mileage and a rear camera. It's a great car." He's trying to make you understand him and his product. The second salesman comes up and says, "So what brings you out today? What's your family like? What's important to you in a car? Safety, comfort, fun?" And then he just listens. Which one are you more likely to buy from? The one who makes you feel understood, of course. Your ears are a better persuasion tool than your lips. And this isn't just about business. It's about relationships. It's about leadership. When people feel heard, they feel valued. And when they feel valued, they will move mountains for you. But what happens after you've persuaded someone? After they say yes? This is where most people drop the ball. They focus all their energy on getting the sale, getting the commitment, and then they move on. Graziosi says this is a huge mistake. The real magic, the secret to long-term success, is what happens after the yes. He calls this being in the relationship business, not the transaction business. People will refund a transaction, but they won't refund a relationship. He's obsessed with how his clients feel after they buy from him. He continues to provide value, to show he cares, to camp out in their minds and understand their ongoing needs and fears. This is what creates loyalty. This is what turns a one-time customer into a lifelong fan. He also talks about the power of reciprocity, giving to others without expecting anything in return. He sends thank you notes and unexpected gifts to his tenants who pay their rent on time. It's not a trick, it's a genuine expression of gratitude. And it creates a bond that goes far beyond a simple landlord-tenant transaction. As we get closer to the end of our journey, there's one final, crucial piece of the puzzle. You can have all the right habits, the best strategies, the most powerful why. But if you're not happy, none of it matters. Wealth without fulfillment is just a fancy form of emptiness. And this is where Graziosi flips the script on a common belief. We're taught to believe that success leads to happiness. We think, once I get that promotion, then I'll be happy. Once I make $1 million, then I'll be happy. He argues that we've had it backward our whole lives. Happiness is not the result of success. Happiness is the prerequisite for success. When you learn to cultivate happiness on the inside, all the external things, the money, the success, the relationships, become a natural byproduct. He shares 10 happiness habits, simple practices like defining what happiness really means to you, living in the present moment instead of the past or future, letting go of grudges, and practicing gratitude for the small things. When you make happiness your foundation, everything else you build on top of it becomes stronger and more meaningful. Finally, In the updated edition of the book, Graziosi adds a powerful section on productivity. Because once you have all these habits in place, you need the time and focus to execute them. He introduces a concept he calls binary thinking. It's about getting rid of the gray area in your life. Things are either black or white, a yes or a no. You're either climbing toward your goals, or you're sliding away from them. An activity either makes you money, or it doesn't. A relationship either moves you forward, or it holds you back. This kind of thinking forces you to make clear, decisive choices. It helps you cut through the busy work and focus only on what truly matters. His mantra is simple. It has to be a heck yes or a hell no. If it's not a heck yes, it's a hell no. This frees up an incredible amount of time and mental energy. And as a closing thought, he offers a beautiful reframe for all the struggles and hardships we face on our journey. He tells the story of how, as a young man, he lost everything when his dad's auto body shop closed. He was working out of a broken-down barn, feeling like a complete failure. But looking back, he realizes that moment, and all the other hard moments in his life, were just him paying his success tax. What if all the challenges you face aren't there to stop you, but to prove that you are worthy of success? What if every obstacle is just a test from the universe to see how badly you really want it? When you start to see your struggles not as roadblocks, but as the price of admission to a better life, everything changes. You learn to honor the struggle, because you know it's forging the character you need to handle the success that's coming your way. Commentary. As we step back and look at the beautiful tapestry of ideas in Millionaire Success Habits, what stands out to me the most is how deeply human it is. This isn't a book about complicated financial instruments or ruthless business tactics. At its core, it's a book about the internal game of success. Dean Graziosi reminds us, again and again, that the biggest battles we'll ever face and the greatest victories we'll ever win happen right between our own two ears. The world will tell you that success is about what you have, where you went to school, or who you know. But this book whispers a more powerful truth. Success is about who you decide to become. It's about the story you choose to tell yourself when you're alone with your thoughts. It's about having the courage to face the villain inside you and the wisdom to feed the hero. What makes this book so special, especially for someone just starting out on their journey, is its simplicity and its heart. Graziosi doesn't talk down to you from an ivory tower. He speaks to you like a friend, a mentor who has walked the path, stumbled, and gotten back up. He makes you feel that if he can do it, a kid from a broken home with dyslexia who barely graduated high school, then you can do it too. The most powerful lesson, for me, is the idea of changing your story. We don't realize how much of our lives are run by old, outdated narratives that we inherited from our parents, our teachers, or our past failures. These stories become our reality. Graziosi gives us not just the permission, but the practical tools to become the author of our own lives, to pick up the pen and write a new ending. If you're going to take just a few things from our time together today, let them be these. First, take 5 minutes right now and ask yourself, why do I want what I want? And then ask why again. See if you can get just 1 or 2 levels deeper than your surface answer. You might be surprised by what you find. Second, identify just one negative story you tell yourself. Maybe it's I'm not good at math, or I'm too shy to be a leader. Then, find one single piece of evidence from your past that proves that story isn't 100% true. Just one crack in the foundation of that old story is all you need to start tearing it down. And third, for the next week, practice binary thinking on small decisions. When you're deciding what to do with a spare hour, ask yourself, will this move me closer to my goals, or further away? Is it a heck yes or a hell no? This simple filter can bring incredible clarity to your days. That was a summary of Millionaire Success Habits by Dean Graziosi. We certainly touched on the big ideas today, but I have to be honest with you. A summary is like looking at a picture of a grand feast. You can see the food. You can appreciate how it's arranged, but you can't taste it. The real nourishment comes from sitting down and experiencing the meal for yourself. The magic of a book like this happens in the quiet moments, when a particular story or a simple phrase lands in a way you didn't expect and shifts something inside you. This overview is here to help you decide if this is a feast worth your time. If anything we've talked about today has sparked a fire in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning, it's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see yourself and the path ahead. Also, if you found this journey valuable, it would mean the world to me if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book from the Billionaires bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.